Hello and welcome back to Cinnamon Sanctuary. Today we are making dinner. On the menu we have rice and peas, some sweet plantain and oxtail soup. My first cook with me video, yay! Stay tuned to find out how I go about making these. So spread out in front of me, I have 1 kilo of oxtail, which I have washed really well in water and vinegar. And I've also tried to remove some of the fats. As you may know, oxtail is a very fatty meat, so I tried to remove some of the fats just to make sure that I ended up with a less fatty dish. And in here I also have some spring onions, which I've just chopped, some thyme, and about 4 cloves of garlic. And to season the meat, I'll be using some pink Himalayan salt, black pepper, some everyday seasoning, some oxtail seasoning, some Caribbean mixed herbs, some all-purpose seasoning, some garlic powder, as well as some parsley. To begin, I'm going to go ahead and season the meat with all of the ingredients that I just cited, and the idea is to season them all and then let the meat rest for approximately, in this case I think I let it rest for about 2 to 3 hours. Ideally you'd want this to marinate overnight, but I didn't have a lot of time and I wanted to make sure that dinner was ready early enough, so I just let it marinate for about 2 to 3 hours. Here I'm using about 3 thyme stalks and I'm just removing the leaves. I won't be adding the stalks, they'll be going in the bin. And I'm just adding some spring onion. And I didn't show this in here, but I also added a tablespoon of oil just to, for me, I find it easier to mix everything up. So I added a tablespoon of oil. And now I'm just going ahead and mixing this all up, after which I'll be covering this in cling film and put it in the fridge to marinate for 3 hours. In the meantime, I'm going to boil those red kidney beans. They have been soaking overnight with the spring onions and the thyme because I think it adds so much more flavor to the rice and peas. And I'm just going to put them on the hob and let them boil for about an hour. The oxtails have been marinating in the fridge for under 3 hours actually. I think it has been about 2.5 hours. And now I'm just going to go ahead and sear the meat. To do this, I'm going to start off by caramelizing some sugar, which is a nice Caribbean way of doing this, especially in Jamaica. I think it's quite popular to just first caramelize some sugar before adding your meat in. So I added about 1 tablespoon of oil and 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, and you'd have to make sure that it reaches the color that you would have seen, like a dark brownish color, and that's when you know that your sugar is caramelized. So I dropped the meat in and let it sear for about 7 minutes. So the whole process of searing the meat takes about 7 to 8 minutes. And the idea is to ensure that this seals in all of the flavors that would have been incorporated into the meat. So once the meat is nicely seared, I went ahead and added about half a red onion. And this is optional because there's also a lot of spring onions already in the meat, but I like the extra flavoring. So I just went ahead and added that in. After which we can go ahead and add some water to the meat. So I just went and rinsed the bowl that was used to season the meat, and I added this in, making sure that I don't entirely cover up the meat. So now you can reduce your heat. Oh yeah, 1 Scotch bonnet pepper went in there as well, and just let it simmer for approximately an hour and a half to begin with. Going back to our peas, they've been boiling for just over an hour, and as you can see, they are fully done now. They're nice and soft, and this is the point at which I'm going to start seasoning them. So when I started boiling these peas, I did not add any salt. I tend to do this once the peas are done because I don't want to end up seasoning them twice. So I just went ahead and added some pink Himalayan salt, some freshly ground black pepper, as well as some all-purpose seasoning. And I did chop earlier some red peppers, about half a red pepper, 3 cloves of garlic, as well as a bit of red onion, just to add as an extra condiment to the rice and peas. I think it's a very nice addition. And I also added some garlic salt in here, as you can see. So here are the chopped vegetables, which I'm just going to drop into the peas. And I went ahead at this point and also added my coconut oil. So I'm using, no, not coconut oil, coconut cream, coconut milk. That's it. We got there in the end. So I just went and added half of this jar. I didn't add the whole container, and the rest just goes into the freezer. And I can add this again when I'm going to make another coconut milk based meal. And this is it. So I just added all the ingredients, and I dropped 1 Scotch bonnet pepper, and I'm going to let this boil for a couple of minutes before then going in to add my washed rice. So in terms of rice, I used a mix of basmati and long grain rice, so half basmati and half long grain rice. And I'll put in all of the measurements in the description box, so don't worry about this. So the way you want to do this, so when you add your rice, you want to ensure that there's only a tiny bit of liquid left at the top. This is how you end up with rice that is not too sticky. So this has been boiling on medium heat for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, the water has now evaporated, at which point I went in with just a tiny bit of hot water, and I'm now going to let this steam on a very low heat, which is why I added some foil just to make sure that the rice steams nicely. So at this point, you just let it steam for as long as it takes, really, on a very, very low heat. So whilst the rice is steaming, I went ahead and checked on my oxtails again. These have been boiling up for about an hour and a half now, and this is the point at which I went and added some carrots, because I love oxtails with chopped carrots. So I chopped about 3 to 4 small carrots, just in round pieces, and added them in. And as you can see, I'm now removing the excess oils from the oxtail, because as I mentioned earlier, oxtail is a very fatty meat, and I prefer to remove the excess oil because it's not very nice to just eat a fatty rice and pea dish. So this is the amount of oil that I managed to extract, and I just went ahead and covered this up and let this boil for a further 30 to 45 minutes. Our rice and peas are fully done now. They came out perfectly, and as you can see, they are nice and fluffy. They're steamed really nicely, and I did not add any extra water. I just let the foil do its thing and let it steam, and it resulted in a really nice, fluffy and separated rice and pea dish. So I'm quite pleased with them, actually. So I'm just using a fork to fluff them all up, and these will be waiting now for the oxtails to cook. Back to our oxtail soup. These are about 5 minutes away from being done, but I just thought to add some butter beans because I just love butter beans in oxtails. I think it's amazing. You can't go wrong with that. And they are just going to stay in for no longer than 5-6 minutes, because if you leave them in any longer than this, you're going to end up with mashed up beans, and you don't want this. So I just let this boil for about 5 minutes, and voila. Your final dish is done. The oxtails are nicely cooked. The kitchen smells amazing, and I'm just dreaming about dinner at this point. I was so pleased with this, honestly. I was so pleased with this dish. The meat is falling off the bones, and I'm just showing you. I don't know if you can see from here. You probably can't. But yeah, the meat was very, very tender, and it goes so well with the carrots and the butter beans and all the seasonings. It's just perfect. It's perfection, honestly. Perfection in a pot. So I am just about to turn the heat off, and I will start with the plantain, so a nice side dish to go with this as well. Okay, last step, our plantain. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just slicing the skin off, and I will be using the skin as sort of protections for my hand, because I sliced the plantain on my hand, like a proper African woman. I don't use a chopping board for this because I think it's easier. So I let the oil heat up in here, and I'm just slicing this into diagonal shapes. And as I said, I'm using the skin as a base for my hand so that I don't end up slicing my fingers off, and dropping this into the hot oil. And I'll just let these go nice and golden brown for a few minutes each. I think each side takes about 5 minutes probably, but you just want to make sure that your sides are golden brown, and check from time to time. It's pretty easy. I could make a separate video really on how to fry the perfect plantain. Let me know if you'd like this. After all the hard work, dinner is now ready to be served. Our feast, our Caribbean feast, is all ready to go. Nice fluffy rice and peas, golden plantains, and last but not least, we have our oxtail soup all ready to be downed on this lovely weekend evening. And as I mentioned, this is my first cook with me video, and I actually really enjoyed doing this. Let me know if you'd like to see these types of videos. I love watching cook with me videos. I really love them. I find them so motivating. So let me know if you like this type of content. And I'm just plating up here to let you know what it's going to look like, all nicely plated up. Does presentation matter to you? Leave a comment down below and let me know if you really like presentation. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment and a like. Please do share, and I will see you very soon on my next video. Bye.